Heyo, outliers, Niiamah Xiang here. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your journey and letting us come and have this roundtable conversation with you. We have two incredible trailblazers who are here to share their insights, not information. I think that's really, really key. Like we're gonna have this conversation here because I know that you outliers, you're all walking your path. And like so we're gonna really focus in on sharing our stories, sharing our experiences, and leaning into our edge here. Like the way I look at it is like we model the rooms we want to be in. Let this room be a model of the world we want to see. And so, with that, I'd love for you to get to know the outliers that we have playing with us here today. Natalie, we're going to start off with you. Would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're playing?
Okay. So my name is Natalie Francis-Clarke. I am a self-care advocate. I'm the owner of Pause Reset Brunch. It's a nonprofit organization. It didn't start out like that. It was supposed to be a one-time brunch for women to talk about how we keep going, 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 going. And this year, March 29th, it was the seventh year anniversary. And now I'm taking it a step further as having different monthly events as a self-care reminder that we need to pause and reset, take off the superwoman cape and take care of ourselves. So the game that I am playing, I am trying to enforce and remind myself in it that it is important for us to take that pause and reset.
Natalie, I'm really glad that you're here. There's something that you like, you've already given us a gift where you said, like, you're like, I started it out as a one-off thing, and now 7 years later, we're still growing. And I think that like here, allies, if you're really paying attention, like immediately there's something. What's that thing that you're trying to get so far out in the head, out ahead of yourself? You're like, I don't know if I have the vision. It's like, what if you just started off and just got started and then come
Mhm.
send us a message in 7 years and let us know how it's all continuing to grow? What if that was it? Natalie, thank you so much. Like right away, just dropping the different ways for us to see different things. I like the way you play. I like the way you play. All right, Maryann, let's get to know you. Do you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're playing?
Yes, definitely. So my name is Maryann Rivera-Dannert, and I am the CEO of MRD Empowerment Solutions, LLC, where I work with women who feel stuck, unfulfilled, lack clarity, and I am for the woman who needs to heal and is using her fear as fuel for success. And the game that I am playing is kind of like Natalie, reminding myself that I have limitations, but my goal is to be liberated. So it's using my own tools, my own coaching programs. That's how they are birthed through personal experience, through things that I have overcome, and just channeling in my higher person. I have her in my mind. I know who she is, what she spends money on, what she drinks, what she eats, how she shows up. So every day, every decision that I make, I am channeling my higher version of myself.
Loving this alignment that's
Yeah.
here, right? When I hear the alignment of self, the alignment with your higher version, and also just in this conversation, I feel like you both are like have like taken a stance for women in a way that just
Yes.
like really aligns. So let's
Yeah.
lean into that, shall we? So this during this conversation, I think I'm not going to try and do is have each of you like kind of give us like the top 5 tips to help a woman do XYZ, right? However, I think that there's going to be something about the way you show up in this conversation that in and of itself will be the representation of it. Right. And I don't know what it's going to be, but I think people are just going to get the reflection of you when it comes through. So I want to get us started here when I think about the outliers who are listening to this year. And I actually now that I'm really like intrigued and aligned with like how you just got something started. You're in your 7th year. Um, Maryann, I know some of your background. You've written multiple books here and things like that.
Yes.
So I'm curious about here. I have a thing in my community I call Start with One. And so I would love like to if y'all can share about an experience that you had where you know that first time when you went into it, and like the way that you approached it or how you felt going into it. I want to just like bring us
Mhm.
all to that moment. Is either one of you want to get us started on that?
I can go first if Natalie doesn't mind.
Nope, go ahead.
So definitely, as you mentioned, I am an author also. So I've co-authored over 20 different anthology projects with other visionary authors, and then I have my own three, working on my fourth one right now. And for me, I would have to say the very first time that I became a co-author. The book is called Womb Sister Chronicles, so Women Overcoming Men Blues, and it's about toxic and unhealthy relationships. And immediately, like the coach that I was working with, she was my business coach. She knew like my story. She knew my background. She was like, I know that you have a story within you to share. And I was scared because the person is local in the area that I'm in. And I'm like, people are going to know. He might read this book. And so I was a little hesitant. And her response was, well, number one, this is your truth. And if that person has a different version of what really happened, let them write their own book. And I think sometimes we get stuck on what people are going to think, say, and things like that, that it causes us to freeze and pause and not achieve our goals. So for me, when I wrote that first book, that was in 2016. And like I just mentioned, to date, I have over 20. So it's like that writing bug got to me because writing is very therapeutic. And as you're writing and you're sharing your story, especially as a co-author, because you're limited to how many words you can share depending on the project, you're just getting to, just a little bit. So for me, that was like a very, aha moment. Just focus on what it is that you want to say. It's your truth. And don't be afraid because the unknown is scary, but staying in your comfort zone is scarier.
Go for it, Natalie.
Okay. Well, it all started 2013. I was finishing up my master's. I had a decent job in corporate. Ah, I'm a black female in corporate. I'll just leave it as that. And my mom, she was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. And with me, of course, right? I just kept on going, taking my mother to her appointments, doing this, doing that, not realizing the effects that was going on with my own personal health. Like I realized certain things were happening, but of course, I just kept on pushing through. A girlfriend of mine's in not so kind words, but from a loving place, she came to me one day and said, you need to see a therapist. Excuse
Mm,
you? And basically she started to point out things that I didn't even notice that was going on with me. And she said, it must be bad if it's now showing up.
mm,
So, long story short, I just went to the therapist just to get her to leave me alone. And I did not know, it wasn't until I actually went to the therapist's door, closed the door, I started crying, I couldn't stop. Didn't know that that was there, right? So as I'm talking with other people, telling them about the experiences and they're telling me about theirs, it's why do we do this? That same therapist wanted to write me out, said, okay, I think I need to write you out for a little bit. But what did I say? No, I'll be fine. I just kept on pushing. And um, long story short, the health issues came as endometriosis. It came as all these different things. And it was, if I had only paid attention to the therapist and took that time to pause, you know, maybe, who knows, something would have been different regarding my health. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do a brunch just to bring women together. I'm going to have it as a panel discussion, a nice brunch, and just have, women. It was a small group. And that year I had someone come who had lost their spouse the year before. And I didn't realize that she really wasn't doing anything beyond work and so forth. And she said at that brunch, I'm going to start living. And it was like, wow, maybe I'll do one next year then. And it was just something that it wasn't just for Um, Others, it was also just a reminder for myself. Like I believe in this because too many of us just keep going and going like we're hamsters, and we're not.
Yeah. You know, and it's interesting because I think that comes from generational conditioning, how we
Mhm.
were raised,
Yeah,
especially as minority. You know, we are always the caretakers, we're nurturers, we're taking care of other people, our significant others, our children, our parents. As an employee, you're doing the job, you're taking care of your employees, but then there's nothing left over for you. And it's
nothing.
like, I'll get to it. I'll do it this weekend. I'll do it this weekend. And then this weekend comes and goes. And you're running around, cleaning the house, grocery shopping, cooking, getting ready for the week. And then there's no time for you.
Mhm.
And I think that that's where that comes from because we've been conditioned to take care of other people and neglect ourselves.
Yeah, just keep pushing through, because we see it. The majority of us, we come from, well, I can say I come from a line of strong women. And even though I've seen them go through situations, you know, head up, chin up, and you keep on going.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to just, again, like you said, make that pause and be purposeful about it. And, therapy, especially because in the minority culture, is kind of like taboo. You don't talk to strangers about your problems. What happens in this house stays in this house and things like that.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like a car. You don't wait for the engine to be smoking before you go get an oil change or something like that. You do it every 3 to 6,000 miles as maintenance. And I think that that's the beautiful thing about therapy, that I think everyone should be in therapy and not wait for something to be wrong, to take care of yourself because it's kind of like a preventative measure.
And then it also goes through, am I my sister's? I'm saying, am I my sister's keeper? Because I personally, I didn't think,
Yeah.
so even when I walked into the therapist's office and the first half of the session, I couldn't stop crying. And I didn't even know this was in me. I didn't even know
Yeah.
I needed to let this out until I locked that door. And um, probably if my friend did not nag me in her loving way, I probably wouldn't have done that, you know.
And the beautiful thing is that, yes, your friend noticed and she spoke up. And number
Yeah.
two, even though it took a while, you were
Mm-hmm.
accepting and you were receptive to it,
Of course.
getting that feedback from her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we have to be opened up to
Yes.
um to listening and realizing that things come from a place of love sometimes,
Yeah.
even though the delivery may not be what you want it to be, but it is a place of love. So yeah.
There's something in that element about like the delivery not being what you want it to be, and be allowing yourself to be opened up here. Well, and firstly, and thank you all for like being open here. Like let's keep this going. The the thing that comes from me is like how there's someone in my world who says, I care so much I don't care. I
Mm,
Mm.
care so much I don't care. And when I'm hearing there, Natalie was like someone cared that much about you. It's like, I don't care if you like how you need to hear this, but like I really want you to go and get some support. All right.
mhm,
And I like to bring this in, like, because I know a lot of the trailblazers and outliers that are listening right here, we tend to, like, I think it's because I bring in more people who, who like me, like, we end up being recovering people pleasers, you know? And there's something in there around like the powerful element of being able to say something like to this day, Natalie, I get it. You're like, I didn't love hearing it. It was it was 7 years ago. I didn't love hearing it. I still don't love hearing it, but
mhm,
it served and it uncovered something that you didn't even know was there.
mhm,
You know,
mhm,
I, I there's this component here. I want to lean just a little bit into that like elements of like the kept on pushing component and like being able to slow down and create it. And I think that the place that's interesting to me is what does it actually take to slow down? Right. I'm sure that outliers listening to them, this is not the first time that they've heard of self-care, of slowing down, of the things that we're talking about in this case. Maryann, you talked about people using fear as their fuel for success. Like there's things in here where we can
Yeah.
see what we're doing, but at the same time, we may not think that what we're doing is actually like it's getting us the results that we have. So I'm curious about like, so now Natalie shared a bit just now, like Maryann, when it comes for you, the two things that this is what I'll ask for both of you. How do you continue to keep the mirror open? How do you continue to make sure you're getting the right kind of feedback or the right kind of like opportunities to see yourself, especially as y'all keep growing in your honestly your awesomeness, right? I feel like as leaders and like the higher up you go, the harder it is to get like that real kind of feedback or real kind of reflection. So I'm curious about what y'all do to make that work for you. Either of you want to get us started on that?
I think it's very important to have the right circle. You don't need to have a group of 20 friends if 17 of them are negative Nancy's and complainers and gossipers and things like that. You can have a beautiful circle of three people that are pouring into you, that, like Natalie's friend, called her out, recognizing some things. So for me, I make sure that I am surrounded by people who are achievers, who are goal-getters, who are striving for better, a better version of themselves, who are not complaining all the time and life, woe is me, but they're not doing anything about it. Because you can complain all you want, but if you're not taking action, nothing is going to change. And, we've all heard the saying before that you are like the sum of I think it was Zig Ziglar that said it, you are the sum of the closest five people that you surround yourself with. So make sure that number one, you're surrounding yourself with the right people. And for me, because I've done a lot of talks and, workshops and things about self-care, sometimes people underestimate what that word really means. And it says it right in the name, self-care. So what does it mean to you? Because Natalie's self-care is going to look totally different than mine, and mine is going to look totally different from hers. So it's, what does it mean to you? Is it a walk by the beach? Is it just literally staying in bed all day and watching Netflix? Give yourself the permission to do what you need to do to re-energize yourself. And also know what your values are. Know what your values are, stick with your boundaries, and no, don't negotiate them. And I think that that's truly important. And again, it is just making time to personal growth, professional growth. And again, it could just be having some me time with your girlfriends and just talking about, like, okay, how are you truly feeling? Now I'm fine. How are you truly feeling? The walls are down. This is a safe space. Let's really talk about it. And the thing about it is that when we become vulnerable and we're opening ourselves up, it gives others permission to also show up and talk about it, because it's like, oh, she's also going through that same thing. Or, she's been through it. How did they navigate through it? And how did they overcome it and things like that?
Um, Marian, I strongly believe in what you say about surround your closest five people, because energy is so, oh my gosh, it transfers. If you
Yes.
talk to someone who is constantly complaining, eventually you find yourself kind of doing the same thing if you don't catch yourself. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And as far as self-care, I think it is important in order for you to know what that looks like for you kind of have to allow yourself to be still, to kind of know what does that entail, right? I always have a story, right? So pretty much I left corporate, and I'm a new, well, not new. I've been a realtor for a couple of years now, and we know the market is kind of crazy. So with that, then I decided to go head on making Pause Reset Brunch a nonprofit. But then I got scared
Mhm.
with everything that's going on, and I went back to a 9 to 5, and it was the worst thing that I could have done for me
Mhm.
personally. And even though I was like, okay, you know what, this is all in your head, I had to have a moment of stillness, and that was me being by the water and not even paying attention. I don't know what you believe, but like I believe prayer is you talking to God, but being silent is actually allowing him to talk that to you, right? Or just getting that stillness, getting that time to focus. And I think it's important to in order to know what self-care looks like for you, you need to have a moment of stillness to see what is important, what are the triggers, what is all that. Needless to say, I did leave that job, and I filed my 501(c)(3), so yay.
I'm glad
And
you
I,
did say it though, right? Because as much as you say needless to say, like there are us trailblazers out there that haven't said that. That haven't asked that they're like, this isn't right for me, you
mhm,
know, and yet I'm still gonna be here. And for whatever
was
reason it is.
miserable. There was no way I could have kept on doing that because I felt I was a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Mm,
I'm being more and more miserable every day. How am I how can I go in front of people and do workshops on self-care when I'm making myself miserable instead of living in my purpose? So,
I, I think this is really like just really important because there's a component. I often ask like, what's the cost of authenticity? Right? Because like a lot of times people are just like, go be your authentic self. I'm like, have you done it? Because like it can really suck. Like,
yes.
what's coming through you, Natalie? As I said that you had a response to that. Like I feel like you get it. What's flowing through you when I say that, Natalie?
No, it's just it takes focus. It takes you pushing through that fear, and I'm sure you talk about it, Maryann. You have to push through that fear because it's all those what ifs. Am I doing the right thing? Is this what I'm supposed to do? How is this going to turn out? Well, I mean, just
yeah,
just do it, right? That's what
yeah.
Nike says. Just do it. So
And I'm
I
pretty
mean,
sure,
I will say I'm in a position where I can do that. So I get it. I get it. I totally get it. My position may look different from someone else's position. And you gotta know what you can do, strategize, have a plan,
yeah.
and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, that's so true. For me, like I'm pretty sure that people have heard that fear, that acronym, that it stands for false evidence appearing real. For me, that's not what fear stands for.
Mm,
Fear for me stands for feeling empty, abandoned, and rejected. And oftentimes when we have a fear, there's something that's attached to it. We are fearful of how people are going to look at us. People are going to judge us. What are they going to say about us? That can lead to feeling empty, abandoned, and rejected. And like you, I recently exited my corporate job, so I'm doing my business full time. And I had to have a conversation with my therapist that at the end of the day, like I was miserable. I was in this job for about a year and a half. I will say, how many months is that? 18 months. That's probably like 17 months too long that I stayed in that job. And as I reflected back on it, for me, the response was it was ego driven staying in that job. My background, I was a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school when I was 16 years old, got my GED when I was in juvie. My very first job was as a receptionist. Fast forward decades later, I am making close to six figures in the C-suite. And that was like little bragging rights. So it was
mhm,
like, look where I came from, look at me now. And then my therapist said, but are you living in your values? Remember what your values are. Are you living, are you in alignment with what your values are? And the answer was clearly no. And then it was those questions, okay, well, then why are you staying aside from the ego? And it was, again, because, and I'm pretty sure that you have felt this, Natalie, and many other people who, have exited corporate to being full-time business owners. When you have a job, whether you show up or not, you're going to get paid because there's sick time, there's PTO, you're going to get paid, whether it's every 2 weeks, bi-monthly, whatever. But when you are an entrepreneur, you have to show up, you have to do the work. And if you're not
Mm.
getting any paying clients, you're not getting any money. So it was
Mhm.
like that security. And one of my friends said it beautifully years ago. Um, Her prayer was whenever she entered a job, because her goal was to be a full-time business owner, was, she believes in God. So it was like, God, let me learn what lessons I need to learn in this job, and don't let me stay longer than I need to once I've learned that lesson.
Mm.
And I think that if that is something that, whether it's God, higher power, source, universe, talk to your higher power and find out what lessons it is that you need to learn in your current situation, and then start making a plan for you to exit once you've learned those lessons, so you don't stay longer than you need to. And when you do stay longer than you need to, you're going to get burnt out. You're going to start being resentful, and eventually your higher power is probably going to be like, you know what, you've been here too long and you're not listening, you're out. And it's better to just leave on your terms when you have a plan than to to be exited unexpectedly and be caught off guard.
Yeah.
I was on mute, but I had like a full body laugh when you said that there, Maryann, because I'm like, oh, I get that. I know what that's like to there's a role that I had where I was like, I feel like I was like milk on the top shelf of the fridge, and I just kind of stayed
Mm,
there. It's like, and then
Mhm.
people just looked at it. They're like, oh yeah, if
yeah.
there's milk, it must be fresh. And then they open it up, like, oh no, this has gone bad. You know,
Mm,
I really love that component there. You talk about you have to show up, Natalie. Before I'm going to build off of what Maryann said, but there may be something that she's already said that you want to respond to. So before I say anything, is there anything that you want to say or grow from
No,
what
no,
Maryann
no,
said?
no. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really am glad that you talked about the realities of like you have to show up as an entrepreneur. You know, I think that there's something really real in that. It's the there were a few things that really struck me in what you said. And one of them was this was the component of no matter what you did in the past, you have to show up now. And then there was another thing you said. It's bothered me that it fell out of my mind in this current moment because there was in what you said. I actually saw it as like a way out for something that I've been stuck on. I'm probably going to show up. I'm probably going to remember it in just a bit. Um, Oh, it's bothered me that did that. I'm about to come back and re-listen to this part of the conversation and send you a note. But there was something here around you kind of oh, you said I did write it down. I said, don't let me stay longer than I need to once I learned that lesson. All right.
hmm
Don't let me stay longer than I
Mhm.
need to when I learned that lesson. And what
Yeah.
got me was like when it's neutral. So we talked about it a little bit from like the negative side of things, like hey, hey, I should have gone, and then they're gonna come and like get you out. But while I was listening to you talk, I was thinking about it from the neutrality perspective and some of the goals that I have right now for my own business, and recognizing like where I feel like kind of stuck. Where I feel like I'm spinning
Mm,
the wheels and I'm kind of asking myself, should I not? It's a risk. Like, do I want to invest in this right now? What if it doesn't pan out?
yeah.
And when you said that when you said that to me, yes, you said it to me, yes. But when you said it, I was like, all right, don't let me stay longer than I need to once I've learned that lesson. I was like, have I learned the lessons? Like, are there any more lessons for me to learn at this point with what I'm doing? There aren't. I think I've already passed a lesson, and I'm just kind of sitting here. I describe with my
Mhm.
clients. I talk about like looking for a finish line ahead of you when you've already finished the race.
Mm,
Like the finish line's behind you, it will
yeah.
never show up, you
Right.
know? Like you really got me to that point. So outlines, I'm gonna invite you to bring that in. Like, is there something in here where you're staying longer than you need to when the lesson's already there? Whether it's negative, neutral, or dare I say positive, right? Like things are good and leaving at the top of your game because there's nothing else there for you. It might be great for everyone else, but there's nothing else there for you. I would love to
Correct.
keep expanding on this. This is it's hitting me, not
Yeah.
staying longer once you've learned the lesson.
Yeah.
What's coming through you, Maryann? What's coming through you, Natalie?
It's it's funny that you said that. I don't know if it correlates to that, but I remember when I initially left corporate and um my mom had passed away in 22, and then I decided, all right, time for me to get back out there, but I wanted to go in a totally different field altogether, right? So I talked about my struggles with endometriosis, in the past, and it was to the point it was horrible. It was just unbearable. It was pretty much taking over my world, but I was still pushing through, right? I got this job and I actually really liked it. It was a nonprofit sector. And I'm just being very honest here. I was very open about what was going on. Matter of fact, talking with certain individuals, they gave me the courage to go ahead and do hysterectomy. I don't regret it.
Mm.
I wish I did it sooner. I was finally able to get back quality of life. However, with that, um, they didn't, because I had just started working there, they did not tell me, hey, if you just wait a month, you'll be able to have short term. Even though they were instrumental in my talks, instrumental with me making that decision. Once I got the date, I told them, full
Yeah.
transparency. It wasn't until 2 weeks before the surgery that I was like, nonprofits, people have double roles. I said, hey, I'm so accustomed to corporate and how they handle stuff. What are the logistics? How do we go from here? So anyway, long story short, they told me if I couldn't come back within 2.5 weeks, it would be considered a voluntary resignation. I was devastated. When I say devastated, I was more so hurt because of the level of transparency and because of how vulnerable I was with sharing with everything. However, one of the things that I was able to do, I had a coach come in. She's actually now a very good friend of mine. And she said, um, your work is done here. So
Mm.
when you said that, and as you expanded on that, that's what it reminded me. Your work is done here.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what? But then when I thought about the work that she did when she came, when I brought her in, and she was providing free services through grants. When I think about the direction that now the board was taking, even though I'm not gonna admit it was me, but my work was done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even though it was it was hurtful, um, my work was done. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's unfortunate, especially, my background is human resources. And that's very unfortunate because, again, you were very transparent as to everything that was going on. And it would have literally taken 30 seconds to be like, hey, do you know that if this happens, you can wait for this and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say, for me, it came from I get in my current job, like I said, I was there 17 months longer than I should have. Um, a friend of mine was actually in the very role that I was first hired as. And she was in the position for 4 months. And she was just like, yeah, no, it's time for me to go. She left. When her and I chatted, she, filled me in. And I was like, well, we're different. We manage different leadership style. I'm going to go for it because it was a higher position than where I was previously. So I went for it, got an interview, got the job. Immediately, I'm like, oh, I know where she's coming from. But again, that little ego was kind of like, ooh, you're making X amount of money. This is your title. There's something here for this, it's going to build up your resume. So I stayed. And in my mind, I had a plan. I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this a year and then I'm out. I'm going to start focusing on my business. That year came and went and still no exit strategy. Like, oh, just, trotting along. By this time, I had gotten a promotion into the C-suite, got a bigger increase. So now, like, that ego was really like pumping and things like that. And it was just like, and then as I started tapping into my healing journey, it was like, okay, what is it that you truly want out of life? Like, where do you see yourself? Like, I ask my clients, talk about your perfect day. Where are you at? Where are you waking up? And like what I was doing was not in alignment whatsoever with what I truly desired. So I was like, okay, I'm going to wait for this. I'm going to give my notice, and this is my end date. So I started saving my PTO and I went on a plant medicine retreat in July. A week before I was leaving, I gave a 2 months notice
All
and went on my retreat for a week, came back 2 days later, was called into the office for to what I'm thinking was going to be our one-on-one. And I was met as soon as I saw the president of the board. I'm like, oh, today's my last day. And it was. It's like, oh, the spiel that they give, you know the spiel, Natalie. And
Mhm.
so I was like, okay. I'm like, all right, where do I sign? Like, as long as I'm getting paid because I gave my notice. So I know I'm getting my PTO. And it was just like, you know what, Lord, thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you, source, because I stayed way longer than I should have. I stayed way past what I had learned that I needed to learn. And again, sometimes we just have to listen to that ego, and it's kind of like, okay, I hear you, but it's time for you to quiet because you're not serving me right now. And I need to just stick with what I know I am truly meant to do.
Mhm.
Y'all are fantastic. Like this is, I'm enjoying this conversation. We're gonna start wrapping up, but there's some like before I go, I think like I would kick myself if I didn't bring up something that Maryann you brought up earlier in the conversation, right? And so, yeah, there's a part of me that wants to like be like the really smooth like podcast host and be able to tie it back into immediately what's happening, but like it doesn't tie in. It's just like it's just been running through my head. So at the beginning of this year, you talked about you writing you being a part of an anthology and sharing like your story, and
Mhm.
um, you were hesitant because you're like, well, this book might impact someone else. Well, that's what I heard. This like this person, it's a local thing. It's going to impact that person,
Yeah,
and the feedback that you got was like, well, let them go write their own book. And
correct.
I got something like I wanted to come back to it because I thought that was really really profound, and I think about the challenges that outliers and trailblazers we face, and what I felt in that was like that to me meets my definition of inclusiveness, which is not
Mm,
like, oh, I have to make it so safe that everyone gets in, which means that I'm not actually going to say anything at all, or I'm going to not like, yeah, either I'll say something and it ends up being so vanilla that it's not, I haven't really said anything at all, or I literally won't write the story, for example, in this case. And it really struck me because I think that there's something really freeing in that. Like the real inclusiveness is like you have an opportunity to go and say what you want to say. And I'm going to invite you to take that opportunity. Whether or
yeah.
not you use that opportunity, that's not on me to have to go and create for, but I can definitely leave you to be in this space to be able to leverage the tools in that way, and I there was just something about that because it like that it hit me, especially when I think about it from an inclusive perspective, also an exclusive perspective. Both of you work with women, you know, and at the same and the part of me in the past, I'm like, oh, what would that mean? It's like, well, there's a chance that there's men can go to brunch too, right? But it doesn't have to be through Natalie's organization. Natalie doesn't have to
Right.
organize it to make that happen. Like you can also go out and create this. And I,
Yes.
I think that there's something that I want to make sure I put into this space. I'll be curious what you all think about it. We'll take maybe one or two comments on it, and we're coming up at the top of the hour, so like we'll wrap up there. But it was just something that I didn't want it to just go by because I'm like, there's something really key in
Yeah.
that element of like, well, you can do it too, or they can do
Correct.
it if they want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. And for me, like my focus is women because I'm a woman. And, you know, the things that little Marianne experienced growing up and teenage Marianne and early adulthood Marianne, what I experienced, my desire was that I wish that I had a role model, somebody that looked like me, that had been through things in life that overcame. So that's not going to be a man. So for me, my focus is women because of that reason. Now, I am connected to a lot of men who are coaches and, trailblazers and outliers and things like that. So when there is either a wife or a girlfriend or a mother, and they're like, I wish something like this was was around for my son or for my husband or my boyfriend or whoever. It's kind of like, oh, there is, and let me connect you with so and so and things like that. So I think that goes also in line with making sure that you are surrounded by people who strive to be better, whether it's men or women, and have who's in your contact list. I think just recently Mel Robbins, had that question like, who's in your contact list? And it's like, you just because for a man, for example, for Natalie, just because she may not serve men, she might have resources or somebody else can connect with her, collaborate, and create something that would be specific for men that is led by a man.
Mhm. It's funny that you mentioned Mel Robbins. I love her 5 second rule.
Yes.
And sometimes I have to be so intentional with the 5 second rule. So basically, if you ponder on something longer than 5 seconds, that's enough to talk yourself out of it.
Yep.
And literally, when I'm saying, okay, I have to get this done, I have to pick up this phone and call this person, I literally have to count. I do
Yeah.
the 5 second count, because that's when I know I'm serious.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you mentioned Mel,
Yeah.
I adore her as well. So
Well, I appreciate y'all bringing your seriousness to this conversation. Like we're gonna wrap up this year. I have like two questions to ask of you, but before I do, I'm gonna have a request of you outliers and trailblazers that are listening. One, you are the fourth person in this conversation. So as you notice, like as we're having here, we're asking you to reflect, sit down, think. Maryann and Natalie are sharing their experiences to open up opportunities for you to hear your own experience. This is leadership, right? They've created a vision and they've shared a vision of how they've lived their life so that you can see a vision of your own, right? My ask here is that if there's someone in your world, not if, I'd like you to think about someone who in your world who would really benefit from hearing the conversation that we had today. There's probably someone out there that is thinking the same thoughts, that is like that has been caught somewhere where they have learned the lessons, where they're not, or like the self-care hasn't come in, or they just can't see the mirror as to what is actually happening for their own world. My ask is that you take the time to let them to send this message to them and let them know you were thinking of them directly. I have this theory that I'm really behind, where I'm like, it's not about just sharing it out on the social medias. Like, please go ahead, do that. We'd love to get this out to more people, but it's about getting it to the right person, and then that person hearing it, and then getting it out to the next right person, and so on and so forth. And something tells me that that's going to be more impactful and spread more like wildfire than just listening, keeping to ourselves, or trying to just share it generically. Let's get it to the person that is meant to be. Thank you. We appreciate your help with that. So Natalie and Maryann, we end our conversations by doing two things. One, really, I wanted to share what is the best way for outliers to go deeper down the journey with you. Then I asked for this, like, what's your best contact? There's millions of ways that people can reach out to you. Like, what do you recommend for them to do? And then the second thing is leaving outliers aside. This is not like I want an insight from you if you're willing to share it. What's an insight that you are taking away from this conversation? Now, look, the distinction between an insight and an outside. It's an outside is basically advice for them. This is not coming from within them. It's you bringing it to them. They got what they needed from this one. This one here is really for you. Every experience with me is a transformational experience if you allow it to be, right? And so, which ways has this lesson, this conversation impacted you? All right. Why don't we start with you, Maryann? Share the best way for people to go deeper down the journey, and what insight, if any, did you get from today's conversation?
Yeah, definitely. So my website is my name, MaryanriveraDannert.com. That will be the best way. There's resources on there, there's freebies there, and then more contact information is on there. And I will say that a takeaway for me was just a reminder to slow down, was a reminder to really focus on doing what I'm preaching, actually do it. So I am very big on not just talking, but, you know, doing. So action is very important. So that was a big.
Thank you so much, Maryann. Appreciate you on that. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
And then Natalie, how about you? We'll wrap up with this here. How can we go deeper down the journey, and what insight, if any, did you get?
Okay. Well, for me, the work is definitely out there to be done. And also just a reminder that I am actually going in the right direction. Like this conversation just kind of fuels me a little bit more. So I'm very I didn't know what to expect when I said yes, but I'm
People
so
don't.
but I'm so glad that that I did. When I do my podcast, I also don't tell people what I'm going to talk about either. So I love is now happening to me, so I know what they feel like. So yeah, the work is not done. I'm definitely going in the right direction. And as far as like a contact, for me, there's a couple of ways. I give out my telephone number. That is actually the best way, 781-308 2952. Also, my website is www.naturalandting.com. That's naturalAndTing.com. That lists all my different services that I provide. And yeah, but definitely it was a pleasure, and this just reaffirms that there's work to be done.
Well, I appreciate all of
Yeah.
you. Thank you for coming here and sharing your experience, sharing how you've grown here. Outliers, until the next time we talk, remember, be you on purpose. Journey on.